What is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and today, we are going to be talking about some interesting news, that came out yesterday, um, which is really an awkward time since my Green Bay Packers are about to play the Chicago Bears in Soldier Field. And we will, I'm hopeful we will beat them again. I don't want to jinx it. For the second time to take once again control of the division. But something came out yesterday, that's, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I've been covering the stadium situations with Chicago, Cleveland, Buffalo. We talked briefly about Denver this past offseason. We talked about the Washington Redskins / Commanders stadium situations. And again, this is a never-ending topic, so there will always be stadium discussions. Ironically enough, you'll never hear about that about my team, since my team is, owned by the fans, and we don't have to answer to a billionaire overlord for corporate greed, taking taxpayer money. You know what I mean? So that's one positive. But anyways, so the Chicago Bears president and CEO, I believe it was. Yes, president and CEO Kevin Warren randomly put out like an open letter on social media talking about the Chicago Bears update. It was very abruptly, like I said, just a couple of days before they're about to take on my Green Bay Packers in Chicago. We just beat them 2 weeks ago, and we need to beat them again to once again take control of the division after unfortunately losing to the Broncos in a very, very upsetting, torturous game, since we were up by 2 scores at one point. And lost Micah Parsons and lost Christian Watson on a very, very terrible underthrown ball by Jordan Love, going way too aggressive when we were going down methodically throughout the game at that point. But anyways, so this is a long, long letter, and I'm sure you guys have looked at it. If you got, I do have a link in the description, but I'm pretty sure you can find it anywhere. I'm just going to go through. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read the important parts. Basically, that's not that important. Okay, so the same guideline. Earlier this season, Arlington Heights is the only location in Cook County that meets the requirement for a world-class NFL stadiums. We still believe it offers the best and only path forward in Cook County, given there are no other viable alternatives. So, for contents, Arlington Heights is the location that they are talking about, which I've talked about this in past videos, is that they bought the land in Arlington Heights, which it's about a 35-minute drive from Chicago, from Soldier Field, right? And they bought the land there, and it used to be a horse track, a horse racing track thing, and they tore it down a couple of years ago, and that's where they ideally planned to build a stadium, but there has been a standstill for the past few years. Over the past several years, we have worked in good faith with Illinois lawyers and made it clear committed to investing more than $2 billion in the Chicago Bears, one of the largest private investments in the state's NFL history. We'll get to this. There's a lot of things I have to unpack with this. So here's the thing that I want to really direct at here. We have not asked for state taxpayer dollars to build the stadium at Arlington Heights. We ask only for a commission to essential local infrastructures, roads, utilities, and sites and improvements, which is more than typical for a project of this size. Additionally, we sourced reasonable property taxes, certainly to secure financing. We listened to state leadership and relied on their direction and guidance, yet our efforts have been met with no legislation and partnership. So that's the end quote of that particular paragraph. So here's my problem with this, because it kind of contradicts what they're saying later on. The fact that they say that they are not asking for state taxpayer dollars is fucking bullshit. They know the only reason why they are saying this is because they know damn well that the state of Illinois will not give it to them. That's the only goddamn reason. What billionaire NFL owner in the past 15 years of making these damn stadiums has not asked for taxpayer dollars? We just seen Jimmy Haslam get it because a Republican governor freaking decided to pick a billionaire that can afford the damn stadium himself. He decided to pick him over kids in need that are the worst in the United States for getting food to their kids in schools. That is a statistic that has been brought up, and yet you see them getting that, of course. Not to get into the political parties so much because, again, I try to stay away from the politics stuff on this channel. This is supposed to be fictional fun media, but this as well as talking about NFL. But unfortunately, we have to bring this stuff up. I don't like either political parties, but when it comes to this particular issue, I hate the Republicans more on this particular issue. Just this specific issue when it comes to taxpayer funding. When the billionaires get taxpayer money handouts, when people are suffering and can't afford shit because they keep getting price gouged and all this other shit that happens. Inflation is high up. I work in retail, so I know. I've seen price gouges come up just last year alone. So I don't want to hear this bullshit that, prices are going down. No, you're fucking wrong. Okay, prices are going up. I work in retail. Shut the fuck up. Do not tell me that they are going down. Okay, I've had it with these people that say, prices are going down. No, they're not. They are not. That is facts. Okay? Man, oh man. Point being is taxpayer dollars should not be going to billionaires that can afford it. They can afford making these damn stadiums. If they are so ambitious of making these billion-dollar stadiums, they should pay for themselves. Otherwise, if we are paying for it, we should have some benefit to it, and we should have some say in how the stadium is created. It should not be the way the billionaire wants it to be. That's the thing. It's like, hey, billionaire, you want taxpayer dollars? Guess what? We have a say in how it's built. Enough of this bullshit, or we get some type of benefit to it. I'm sick and tired of this crap, this whole crap. So this is why I don't buy this shit for one bit. Okay. The only reason why the Bears ownership group is saying this is because they know that the Illinois state legislators don't want to give it to him. And the governor there does not want to give it to him. Okay? Which I agree with him on that stance. I know people hate him for other things. We're not going to get into that because, again, this is not supposed to be a politic channel. Okay? But, again, we're talking about football within indirectly having to talk about this. unfortunately. That's why I say this is indirectly being talked about. Not something that I necessarily want to talk, so that's why I'm talking about the bare minimum here. All right, so consequently, in addition to Arlington Park, we have expanded our search to evaluate opportunities throughout the wider Chicagoland regions, including Northwest Indiana. This is not about leverage. We have spent years trying to build a new home in Cook County. We have invested specific time and resources evaluating multiple sites. And decide on Arlington Heights, our fans' desired and world-class stadium. Our players and coaches deserve a venue that matches the championship standards that statutes for every day. With that in mind, our organization is must keep every credible pathways open to deliver the future. Now, and this is end quote to this paragraph. Now, this is bullshit. This whole thing is bullshit. Okay, first of all, I know for a fact that if you polled people that are Bears fans, nobody wants it in Arlington Heights. Just going to say that right now. And obviously, nobody wants it in Indiana. But if you polled Bears fans right now, if they wanted to stay in Soldier Field or build a new stadium in Chicago that's outdoors, by the way, not in a dome, versus Arlington Heights, especially Indiana, guarantee you, Bears fans are going to say they want it in Chicago. Okay? So let's just get that bullshit out of the way. That is a lie. What do I think about the Indiana thing? Well, first of all, like I said earlier in this video, Arlington Heights, the land, Chicago, the Bears own that land. They straight up own that land, which is the only reason why they're saying that, this is the only reason, we wanted. First of all, obviously, as I mentioned before in past videos, one of the biggest holdups for Arlington Heights, which is why they originally were pivoting back to Chicago a couple of years ago, because they originally wanted to go to Arlington Heights, then they pivoted back to possibly going to Chicago, because they were thinking about the museum or whatever. They were going to put it there, but, the legislators and the governor said no. So they basically pivoted them back last season to Arlington Heights. Basically, they own the land for Arlington Heights. That's where they want it. That is the ideal. They have given up on Chicago because they know the governors and politicians are never going to allow it to happen. Not to mention, again, Soldier Field, again, they still have a renovation from 2002 that is still $5 million in the hole. Like, they're still paying that off. Okay? Which the governor even said, hey, you want to build a new stadium somewhere where we support it? Well, you're going to have to pay off the existing renovations for Soldier Field, because that's still on the book. That they still are paying that right now. And yes, I know that renovation was a failure. A lot of people have complained about that renovation because that renovation, destroyed the landmark, because that Soldier Field used to be a historical landmark. It used to be federally recognized as a historical landmark, but because of the 2002 renovations, that led to them losing their status. So yes, I get that the landmark. I get the Soldier Field renovations didn't go that well, but at the end of the day, they're still on the hook for it. They're still on the hook for it, and so the whole state is still paying for that. And yet now we're looking at, them wanting to build new. It's the same thing with the Cleveland Browns situation. The Cleveland Browns are still paying on the 1999 stadium that they made where the old stadium used to be. And, the one, Memorial Stadium used to be. They knocked that down. They built the new stadium right there because they had 3 seasons. of no Cleveland Brown football because the Ravens took the team or whatever, or took the franchise, I guess, because they couldn't keep the name. Um, but so they were able to build a stadium right there. But the renovations for that stadium are still on the books. And, they're just going to pay it off, supposedly, the year that they're going to leave for Brook Park in 2008. 2008 is when the lease, 2028 is when the lease ends, and that's when that would be ideally the Browns' last season in that current stadium, and then they would move to Brook Park. That's at least what it's looking like right now. But again, with this, there's still a lot more money that they have to pay off for that. I think that's very reasonable. I think it's like, hey, you want to build a new stadium with taxpayer dollars of any sort, which again, I still don't support any taxpayer dollar things, but if you want to have any discussions for possibility, you have to pay that off. You have to pay off Soldier Field. Why should people in Chicago or Illinois, pay for a stadium, a new stadium, when they're currently paying still on the existing renovations of the current stadium that they play at? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any business sense. But that's just getting on to the whole, the crux of the situation. But getting to this whole Indiana thing. So the Indiana site that they're thinking of going to is about 35 minutes. I think it's actually 31 minutes. They're saying that's a narrative they're also running with too, is that they're running with, it's 31 minutes. So it's 4 minutes faster from Soldier Field compared to Arlington Heights. They're already running this. I seen Pat McAfee's thing, and I like Pat McAfee, but that whole segment Pat McAfee did really pissed me off because he was just looking at it at a freaking, we're just going to give all the billionaires whatever money they want. And that's how Pat McAfee came off on that video, and that really pissed me off. I'm just going to say it right now, that really pissed me off. Because again, not looking at it from the perspective of why they're not getting money. Okay? They shouldn't. This should be no-brainer. They should not get taxpayer funds. No team should. People in Western New York, like myself, we're going to be on the hook for this stadium for years, this Bills Stadium for years, which I didn't think we should have had to pay. We got no benefits from it. No half-offs and stuff like that. They're just going to increase the stadium prices. They're going to increase the season tickets, the food, etc. Same with what the Bears are going to do. Same thing what the Browns are going to do once they ever get a stadium. They're just going to increase the prices. They're going to triple the money, and guess what? You are never going to be able to go to a game, especially if they do this whole seat licensing thing. So apparently now the NFL wants to do seat licensings where you have to pay just to get the rights to buy a season ticket. That's fucking bullshit. It's like, no, pay for a season ticket and be done. Not this whole, I have to buy this before I can get the season ticket. And that's not even counting directly buying the season ticket. That's $2,000 just to get the rights to buy a season ticket, which will be another $2,000. Okay? That's ridiculous. And again, there's no statistical data that having a football stadium is going to impact the lives of other people other than, getting to go to a game. It doesn't increase it doesn't increase things from, people that, it's just going to put more pockets in the billionaires. It's going to put more pockets in to people that want, to keep increasing their value so they could eventually sell the team if they have to, if they have to, or they get into a situation where they're forced to, it increases the value. of it. And again, it doesn't benefit anybody else. And I've been saying this for years, not just for the Bears. I've said it for the Bills. I've said it for the Browns. Um, you know, you never see Packers having to go through this because they're publicly owned. And that's one thing. That's the great thing about the Packers is they're owned by the fans, so they don't have to worry about billionaire overlords that are just basically gouging everybody, and their taxpayer dollars. Um, but let's get to this whole Indiana thing. So there's one thing about the thing that I'm really shocked the most is I'm really surprised by this, but at the same time, I really shouldn't be surprised by this. Indiana is controlled by a Republican governor, and I think even controlled by Republican legislators, if I'm not mistaken. So it shouldn't surprise me. They're trying to do a tactical thing here by, we're going to go to Indiana, but it's going to be really close to Illinois. It's going to be really close to Chicago. So even though we're moving off state lines, we are going to be still really close to Illinois and Chicago. That's kind of their pitch, basically, if they have to go to Indiana. The one thing that's not being talked about is the Indianapolis Colts in this equation. Now, yes, I know Northeast Indiana is far away enough from the Indianapolis Colts, Indiana. But at the same time, that whole state is dominated by the Colts. I mean, that has become a Colt town. That has become a Colt state. Just because you're hours away from a team doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't fan bases in those towns that are hours away from one another, especially if there's only one team in the state. Okay? A lot of people are going to use the argument, Chicago Bears fans will just go to Indiana, to watch the games because it's 35 minutes away. But I think people are really underestimating the fan base. We've seen what happened with the San Diego Chargers, when they left for LA. The LA has no fans anymore. Most of their fans, are just bandwagon fans at this point. You don't really have a real loyal Charger fan base anymore after they left San Diego. And the Bears are the original NFL team. They created the damn league over 100 years ago. George Halas, the original owner, he created that. He created this league. He created this league that we talk about today, that we have the privilege of talking about today. He created it. And they've been Chicago since 1921. They were called something else the first season, and then they changed themselves in 1921. And they've been the Bears ever since. Okay? For them to not be in Chicago, to me, forget about them being not actually in Chicago anymore. Them being in Arlington Heights. But at least they're still in Illinois, and they're not that far away. I mean, we've seen many teams, including the Bills, who play in Orchard Park. The Cowboys play in Arlington, different Arlington. The Jets and the Giants obviously play in New Jersey, even though they call themselves New York. 49ers play in Santa Clara, not actually in San Francisco. So again, you get the point. There is still that whole idea of the teams are, still there but not there, right? But them being in a completely different state, and I know some people bring up the Jets and the Giants, that's kind of a little different situation because they're really right. I believe Rutherford in New Jersey isn't really that far away from New York. I think it's about a 10-minute drive from cross state lines or whatever, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not that far away. But I personally think it would just be a bad breakup because you have already seen the governor of Illinois come out say it's a slap in the face. And you know damn well the governor is basically going to, like, some people say, oh, they'll still be the Chicago Bears if they move the Indian. No, they won't. They will not be the Chicago Bears. They like, I think back in the late 70s, if I'm not mistaken, George Halas actually, tossed around the idea of possibly moving outside of the city. Not moving out of the state, but moving outside of the city, not too far away from where Chicago is. And the mayor at the time basically said that if you move out of Chicago, we will sue you and you will not be allowed to use the name Chicago anymore as the city team name. Now, obviously, that was a different time. I get that, but this is the governor. You know damn well if they move, the governor, if they move out of state, the governor is going to be on their ass about that, about them being allowed to use their name, use their city name if you're not even in the state anymore. They will definitely make sure of that. I can definitely see that happening. The only way I think they could cover their asses is they somehow rename the town Chicago, which I don't think they'll do that. But yeah, again, I think it's going to be a big issue in terms of the Colts, because that's the one thing, that's the elephant in the room that hasn't been talked about yet, is how are the Colts reacting to this? Because you damn well know that, that's going to alienate some townships that are Colts fans. Like, because the whole state of Indiana, I'm pretty sure, has TV broadcasts to Colts, right? So, Colts football. So that's going to alienate them if Chicago goes into Indiana and, is in that particular area. So, I mean, that's something that isn't being talked about right now. That that a lot of people aren't saying. But the governor came out, the Republican governor of Indiana came out and basically said that we're all up for business and stuff like that. Again, it is a tactic. It's a tactic. They can say that this isn't a tactic all they want, that this isn't, or they say that they said that, because they said it's not urgent, right? Illinois isn't urgent or whatever. Yeah, they're trying to, it is a ploy. They can say it's not a ploy all they want, but it is. This is them trying to threaten Illinois officials to, come in there. And I can tell you one thing. Right now. If Illinois ever came around and did this, the first thing they're going to say is that we want it outdoors. That's one thing I know, which, again, the ownership group has publicly said that they want it to be a dome. Because one of the things with Arlington Heights, I think, even though they own the land, there is like a teacher union thing over there where they get property tax or something like that. And that's becoming an issue. And that's one of the holdups with Arlington Heights, is that they need like a property tax waiver or something like that because of the teacher union. Because they were suing about that a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So that's one of the things that, it's just not feasible. And again, it's this whole, this year-round thing, which is so stupid. It's like, dude, you're a football team. Again, at the end of the day, all this is for more money for Chicago, or more money for the Bears, because the Bears don't own Soldier Field. They lease it out for the games, but they don't, they get all the revenues for the games, and stuff like that, but they don't get any revenue for other things that they do at Soldier Field outside of the Bears games. And so this is the whole reason why they want a year-round venue, is because they want all the money. So on top of the taxpayer-funded money that they want, which they say they don't, but we know damn well that's a lie, because we know how these owners operate. That they want the taxpayer money, but at the same time they want venues so they can increase even more money, and increase more ticket prices and have more venues. Again, they have not talked to Illinois people, but since the governor has flat out said that they would be willing to work with them, that's the leverage they need. That's all they need to hear is because again, if their real end game, if the Bears' real end game is to get a stadium deal in Arlington Heights, because that's what I believe it is, because they own the land in Arlington Heights. So there is no reason for them not, because they obviously made an investment to buy that land, right? That was like millions of dollars to buy that land, right? The idea that they would be like, you know what, we're going to go to Illinois now. The only reason why they're doing this is because they want a stadium deal. They want a stadium deal. They want something on the table for 2026, which in their letter, they basically said that, state leaders do not want this as a priority. And so they're putting this out while the Bears have this good season that they're having right now, right before the Packers game, because now everybody's going to talk about this. The broadcast isn't going to be about how my Green Bay Packers own the Bears. Sorry, guys. I have to do it. I have to do the bet. But anyways, they own the Bears. No, we're going to have to, the story is going to be about the fucking stadium deal. All right. It's going to be about, what are the Bears stadium plans and all this and yada, yada, yada. That's what it's going to be about, more than about the game, which that pisses me off. Because I want to be talking about the game. I don't want to be talking about the Bears stadium situation while we're playing the game and trying to own the Bears again. You know what I mean? I don't want to be talking about that. So, that's kind of my whole thing on that. It's just weird because, again, these are usually things that we want to talk during the off season. But unfortunately, the Bears decided to make it the Bears organization decided to make it public before the season's even over. To be fair, when else were they going to do it? They could have done it right before the playoffs. I guess that would have caused drama too. Personally, I think it should have just been during the offseason. But again, in the Bears organization's mind, they feel like they've been shafted. Because it's been I've heard stadium proposals as far back as 2021 for the Bears, specifically just the Bears, and nothing happened. Now they can get out. Soldier Field's lease runs until 2031, but they can actually get out of the lease starting 2026 next season. So that's when they can get out of it. According to the contract lease, which is why they wanted to have a stadium already in the process of being built right now. But because so many years have been delayed, now they're at the point where they could leave, but they can't because they don't have a stadium right now. So now they're in a situation where it's we can leave, but we really can't leave right now because we don't have a stadium situation. Personally, I'll just say this. I personally think there's nothing that wrong with Soldier Field. I know it's outdated, and unfortunately it had a bad renovation. But I don't think it's a bad stadium. I just think it's more of the Bears organization are greedy because they want more of the money, but at the same time they don't want to put up the money themselves. They can tell. Well, again, I don't buy the whole that they don't want taxpayer dollars because damn well I'll just say this right now. If they actually really do intend to go to Illinois, do you really think that Illinois isn't going to give them taxpayer dollars? A Republican state, a Republican governor isn't going to give them taxpayer dollars. You know, come on. Come on. We know damn well they're going to. Okay? Everybody knows damn well they're going to if they go there. Okay? So, I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, we know damn well they're going to get it if they go to Indiana. But again, there is going to be the holdup of what about the Colts? The Colts are there already. Yes, it's several hours away from Indiana. But again, a lot of people in that state like the Colts. Okay? Even people that are far away from the from Indianapolis like the Colts. You know, that state has become a Colts football town, a football state. Okay? So that's going to be the situation that they're in right now. But yeah, that is it. That is my thoughts on this. What my personal thoughts are is I hope they can resolve something and maybe just do something with Soldier Field. I don't know. Maybe just do something with Soldier Field. You know, maybe make some new renovations. I don't know. Maybe that's not worth it since the last renovations didn't go so well for them. But, you know, just do something that, like, just, you know, if they have to go to Arlington Heights, the only thing is, and I know this for a fact, and I know this is one of the holdups on them, is the teachers thing, and the outdoor, it not being an outdoor venue. That's one of the things that I know is the holdup right now, is that they want it to be an outdoor venue because it's not a feasible thing to have a dome, which, again, that is a deal breaker for the Bears. The Bears don't want it to not be anything less than a dome or a roof. You know, a lot of people have proposed that Soldier Field can get a roof. You know, because I mean that was one of the proposals that they were thinking about. The mayor, the mayor before the mayor that's currently there right now, she had proposed, you know, to do a renovation of Soldier Field with like a roof, you know, or like some type of, you know, roof that you can put up there, you know, one of those ones that you can move up and down, you know, and not like an actual like dome. Right? That was what they were proposing. Of course, that didn't go anywhere. But that was one of the things that was talked about to attract the Bears to get Soldier Field. And again, you know, maybe name the dome or name the roof after, you know, a business deal, since they can't rename Soldier Field something else. You know, the naming rights or whatever. But that didn't go anywhere because, again, they don't want to play in Soldier Field anymore. They want a brand new stadium that they can own and operate themselves, and they want it to be a dome. And I know that the legislators don't want that, and I know for a fact that most of the people there don't want it. Want it to be a dome. So if it does go to Arlington Heights, I just hope they kind of give up on the dome thing, because if the Bears organization really actually truly cared about you know, staying in Chicago or staying in Illinois, or really getting you know, an actual new aggressive stadium, they would concede on it being a dome, but they're not. That's one of the things they want. So that's all I gotta say. I'm out. Comment, rate, let me know what you guys think. I am the comment, rate, subscribe, all that stuff. Let me know what you guys think. I would like to open this up to discussion. I know we might get some Bears fans in here because I am a Packers fan. So we might get the wrong crowd comments coming up in this because Packers and Bears is one of the longest rivalries ever. Go Pack, go! We still own the Bears, by the way, but they might be owned by the Colts literally if they move to Indiana. But anyways, yeah, just put it out there, guys, about the stadium. I know we might get a couple comments about the rivalry depending on how the game goes, but this Saturday, tomorrow. But let's try to keep it on the whole stadium thing. Let me know what you guys think. I'm out. I'm the S Ultimate Goku. I'm out of here. Peace. Also, make sure, besides my YouTube channel, to follow me on the Twitch, the Instagram, and I do have a Discord link in the description where we discuss various topics, including this one here. Now I'm out. Peace.